Road block.
Silicon Valley Bank, which was like the 15th largest bank in America, collapsed after a bank run. I'm not gonna lie to you, I never expected a bank run to actually take down a bank in 2023. But it actually happened, all within 48 hours. The FDIC is now taking control of the bank as of today and try to sort out all this mess, because there's a lot to sort out. I'm gonna make a separate video on how the bank actually collapsed and what happened, but let's talk about what's gonna happen next. The FDIC is officially taking over as of today, and in their press release, they said that any account that had up to $250,000 are gonna have access to their deposits no later than Monday morning. But if you had more than $250,000, then it might take some time for you to get access to your money, because the FDIC has to sell the assets of Silicon Valley Bank in order to get the cash to give back to the depositors. What's interesting about Silicon Valley Bank is most of their customers are tech startups. As you can imagine, most startup companies probably have more than $250,000 in their business bank account. And if they don't get access to that money right away, then they might not be able to run their day-to-day operations or even make payroll. So the failure of this bank could have a huge ripple effect that we're just starting to figure out. I mean, this is the second largest bank collapse in US history, so this is a pretty big deal. And now people are worried if this is gonna lead to more bank failures. I don't think that's the case, but I can definitely see why people are concerned. The story is obviously still developing. I'm sure we're gonna learn a lot more in the next few hours, the next few days, and yeah, the ripple effects of this stuff is gonna be crazy. I'm gonna try to do my best to make sense of all this stuff. I'm also gonna make a separate video to explain how the bank run happened and how it happened so quickly. It seems to be pretty self-inflicted, so if you are interested to learn more about that stuff.
The second biggest bank failure in US history just occurred. In the span of just a few short days, Silicon Valley Bank closed down and was taken over by the US FDIC. Before the collapse, it used to be the US's 16th largest bank, and it had over $200 billion in assets as of last year. This is the single largest US financial institution to fail since the height of the financial crisis almost 15 years ago. So what actually happened and how did we get here? It all started this past Wednesday when Silicon Valley Bank announced that it sold a bunch of securities at a loss, and it would sell another $2.25 billion in shares in order to shore up its finances. Now, this caused quite the panic, because if the bank already has enough money to cover everyone's deposits, why would they need to raise more money? And the simple answer is that they didn't, which caused a bank run. As you might have guessed from the name, Silicon Valley Bank has a lot of tech startups that use it. And when the Wednesday news broke, a bunch of VCs started frantically trying to contact their portfolio companies to take their money out. Because if you try to think about the two outcomes, best case, nothing happens. Worst case, you lose all your money. So it's better to be safe and try to get your money out. This caused the stock price to absolutely crater. It dropped over 60% in one day and then another 20% after hours. By Friday, the stock was halted and the FDIC decided to take over the bank. Silicon Valley Bank tried to find a buyer, it tried to raise more capital, both efforts which failed. And what's interesting to note is that this is also the fastest bank run that's ever happened, because we're able to withdraw our money digitally now. Before, people had to physically go to the bank and try to withdraw their money, so it would take a lot longer. The FDIC does insure deposits up to $250,000. Unfortunately, only 2.7% of all total deposits were under $250K. This is incredibly terrible news for a lot of tech startups. Most of these companies will not be able to make payroll in the next week. And who knows how long it'll actually take for the FDIC to sell all the assets and try to get people their money back. The CEO of Y Combinator, Gary Tan, had this quote: "This is an extinction level event for startups, and will set startups and innovation back by 10 years or more." This really goes to show that no one knows what the hell they're talking about. because even up to the very last hours before the FDIC said they were going to take over Silicon Valley Bank, that they had failed, there were still people on Twitter who were supporting it, saying, oh, I'm keeping my money in, they're safe. And these aren't just nobodies either, they're prominent founders, prominent VCs, and lots of people who are insiders in the tech industry. As of right now, analysts say that this is not going to be like 2008, this time it's different, and that the contagion probably won't spread to other banks. Right now, the impact seems limited to tech startups, but we'll see what happens in the coming weeks.
Are banks around the world entering a liquidity crisis? Silicon Valley just dropped 80% in a day. What is going on? Friday, we see reports of Silicon Valley advising their clients to do a hit and run, baby. Pull your money from the bank and get out while you can. Now, this can create financial instability over the next couple of days because we've seen this with the global financial crisis, and it gets people antsy. So what's going on? Well, small bank reserves are drying up. As you can see from the chart, large bank reserves seem to be holding up fine, but small bank reserves are horribly sick right now, which can also be systemic. Could this be the first cracks in the market? There's still a lot to be seen, but remember that as long as the real estate market can sort of prop itself up as much as possible, even though it will come down because of interest rates, in general, we will survive. Remember that when the Fed pivots is when things get nasty.
This is channel of WeRebuildingWe, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV.